All right, let's just jump right in. Imagine for a second we could build an AI, but not to write a poem or paint a pretty picture. No, something way, way more ambitious. An AI that could actually help us find the truth. I know, it sounds like something straight out of sci-fi, right? But what if I told you the blueprint for it was already written, like centuries ago, in the pages of philosophy?
Of course, that immediately slams us into the biggest question of all. What even is truth? I mean, that's a question philosophers have been wrestling with forever, and honestly, it feels more urgent right now than ever before. Because let's be real, we're not just dealing with fake news anymore. We're in a full-blown epistemic crisis. And that's just a fancy way of saying our basic fundamental ability to agree on what's real, well, it's fracturing. The very tools we use to build knowledge together seem to be breaking down. But, this isn't a story about doom and gloom. It's about a solution. This is the story of how three incredibly powerful ideas from philosophy might just give us the blueprints for a whole new kind of AI. And in the process, it might actually teach all of us a better way to think. So our first blueprint comes from the author Jonathan Rauch. He calls it the Constitution of Knowledge. Think of it as a set of social rules, an operating system for reality that's designed to turn our disagreements into actual discovery. And this whole operating system runs on just two brilliantly simple rules. First up, the skeptical rule. No one gets the final say, ever. All knowledge is provisional, it's always open to being challenged. And second, the empirical rule. No one has personal authority. It doesn't matter who you are, it only matters if your claim can be checked by other people.
But this system, the one that actually builds reliable knowledge, is always under threat. On one side, you've got fundamentalism, which leads straight to authoritarianism. And on the other side, you have the humanitarian principle. And this is interesting. This principle, which prioritizes avoiding offense, can actually lead to what's called a no-knowledge society.
And this quote just nails why that is. Rauch's whole point is that finding the truth is supposed to be uncomfortable. If our main goal is to never ever offend anyone, well then we can never correct our own mistakes. And if we can't do that, we stop learning. Period. Okay, so if we've got the social rules down, how do we actively find the truth? Well, for that, we turn to our second blueprint. This one's from the legendary philosopher of science, Karl Popper, and his big idea, critical rationalism. Now, the core idea here is completely backward to how we normally think. Popper argued that knowledge doesn't grow when we confirm what we already believe. No, it grows when we get tough, when we relentlessly try to find the flaws in our own best theories. It's basically a hunt for errors. The key insight here is just so powerful. Science, and really knowledge in general, it doesn't really prove things true. It works by proving things false, and what's left standing are the most robust ideas we have. Think about it like this, with the classic example. You could spend your entire life seeing only white swans, 1 million of them, 1 billion of them, but you still haven't logically proven the statement, all swans are white. You just can't be sure what's waiting over that next hill. But the second you spot a single black swan, bam! The theory is instantly, totally, and definitively proven false. That right there is the immense power of falsification. Hunting for that one black swan is way more valuable than counting 1 million white ones. All right, so we have our social rules for the community, and we have our method for testing ideas against reality. Our final blueprint gives us an internal check, the mirror of logic, which you probably know better as the Socratic method. So the Socratic method, or the Elenchus, if you want to get fancy, isn't about winning an argument. It's really a 4-step algorithm for cleaning up your own thinking. You make a claim, you agree on some bigger principles, and then you see if your claim actually contradicts those principles. The whole goal is to get to that aha moment where you see your own inconsistency.
And Socrates did this in 2 main ways. First, by finding what's similar in things that look different. Like finding the core of courage that's shared by a soldier and a sailor. But then, he'd also make distinctions between things that look the same, like telling the difference between true courageous persistence and just foolish stubbornness. It's this process of zooming out and zooming in that really refines our ideas.
Okay, so there they are, our 3 blueprints. Now, how in the world do we put them together to build our AI? Well, the key is not to build one giant, all-knowing AI. Instead, you build a team of specialized agents where each one has a very specific job to do.
So, meet the team. You've got the Popkajarian falsifier. Its job is to hunt for those black swans, the data that breaks the theory. Then there's the Rauchian arbiter, who's like the referee, making sure everyone plays by the rules of knowledge. You've got the Socratic midwife,
checking for any internal contradictions in the logic, and running the whole show is the Madisonian orchestrator, inspired by checks and balances, who makes sure no single agent ever gets the final say.
Now, for a team like this to actually work, it needs a code of conduct, and that code is built in the classic virtues of inquiry. You need candor to say what you really think, not just what's polite. You need charity to argue against the strongest possible version of the other side, not a weak straw man. And most importantly, you need humility, the ability to recognize your own ignorance.
So, what's the big insight here? Why does building an AI based on these old philosophical ideas even matter? Because what we're really building isn't just a fancy fact checker. We're building an entire operating system for clear thinking.
And this is the really cool part. The whole system creates a kind of two-factor authentication for truth. It's a perfect metaphor. The Socratic method is your internal consistency check. Does this argument even make sense on its own? And then Popperian falsification is the external reality check. Does this argument actually hold up when you test it against the real world? An idea has to pass both to be considered knowledge.
Ultimately, this AI is so much more than just a tool. Its real value isn't just the answers it spits out, but the process it models for us. It literally teaches us a more rigorous, more humble, and in the end, a much more effective way for us as humans to reason through hard problems together.
Which leaves us with this final, powerful question. For centuries, humans have fought and died over their competing ideas of truth. So what if, for the very first time, we could build technology that teaches us how to let our bad ideas die in our place? What if we could finally learn how to kill our hypotheses instead of each other?